No.
Well, I am Commissioner John Nauman, and I will be subbing for Kurt Ristonen, who is traveling. So I will call this meeting to order at 4:02. So let's, who we, all right. So, Rob Bain. Commissioner Dilday.
Here.
Commissioner Dilday.
Here.
Feel like I'm in an echo chamber. And who's online?
Yeah, this is Joe.
Hey, Joe. Good to hear you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we got it.
And Councilmember Sweet is here. Hi,
Oh, Miranda. All right.
Hello.
Good to hear you're here, Miranda.
I am here.
All right. All right, let's get the show on the road. Public participation.
No, that. Oh, I should.
We're having some technical issues here. We got it? Testing. 1, 2, 3. Good enough. All right, we'll move on to item 3, public participation. Public participation enables the public to address the commission about an item. Oh, that's after this. That. We'll continue on then. To address the commission about an item that is not on the agenda. If you wish to address the commission, please state your name and address for the record. The Arizona Open Meeting Law prohibits the commission from discussing or taking action on an item which is not listed on the prepared agenda. The commission members may, however, respond to criticism made by those addressing the commission, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be placed on a future agenda. Public comments should be limited to 3 minutes reading time. Do we have any public participation? Anybody online? Once and twice. All right, we'll move on to item number 4, approval of minutes. Do we have a second?
I second.
Any comments? I do have one comment. Since we didn't get to chat with Matt McGrath at our last meeting, will he be coming back sometime in the future?
Mr. Chair, we'd be looking, if there's a recommendation from the commission, that is currently not something we have scheduled. But if there's a recommendation, I think once we get to a certain point, his schedule gets a little more interesting. So by the time we got him back, it may be after the fact, but definitely happy to reach out and try to facilitate something.
If this is the appropriate time to bring these things up, in the minutes, it says that Kurt Riegelman said that the Water Commission is drafting a letter to the City Council about the rate study. I'm wondering, was such a letter drafted and sent?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vane, Staff has not seen a letter. We know there's been discussion around the letter, but staff hasn't seen that. Unfortunately, Chair Riegelman is not currently with us for a status update. I still believe that that is the intent, but I'm not aware that, I know it hasn't been sent for sure.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the meetings, on the minutes of the last meeting, excuse me? Oh. We have another commissioner. Woohoo. Glad you're here, Commissioner Bills. Okay, we will then move on to item number 5, new business. And on that agenda, we have 2023 Consumer Competence Report and Jolene Montoya. And assistant, sorry, I can't remember your
okay.
name.
Good afternoon, Chair, Commission members. Jolene Montoya, the Regulatory Compliance Manager for the Water Services. This is Krista Snow. She is our Drinking Water Laboratory Supervisor. So we're here today to present the 2023 Consumer Confidence Report that is required by ADEQ. We would like to entertain any questions, comments you might have. There is one point that we'd like to make sure that you're aware of to talk to constituents about if there need be. We did have a tier 3 violation, drinking water violation per ADQ. That was due to using spring water from the inner basin because we fixed the pipe, which was a good thing, but it didn't run long enough, and so that was a bad thing. So we missed a second monitoring period that we needed to do for that specific location. And the other one violation was that our volatile organic compounds, the laboratory had flagged it, which is not a acceptable flag by ADEQ, and so therefore that was considered a violation by ADEQ. So those are in the report to notify our constituents, and just so you know, so you're aware that's in there this year.
I'm still having a little hard time hearing. Maybe if you pointed the mic up a little more.
Is that better?
A little bit,
Better?
much better.
Okay. Sorry about that. You want me to repeat anything? Okay. No.
So the last item, could you explain that a little bit more in depth? What the issue was, the volatile organics is, and what the problem was?
Which was it? They ran it out of whole time? We believe that the laboratory ran it out of hold time since the test had, so many days within a run, and they ran it outside of it. So it was a flag, and they wouldn't, and ADQ won't accept results.
So essentially it was the lab's responsibility and they didn't come through in a timely manner.
Right, and by that time, we couldn't resample because we weren't still getting water from the mountain.
Got it. Okay. Commissioner Bain.
Thank you, John. Is the hold time issue something we should be concerned about? Was this just an aberration, or does this throw into question the use of this particular lab at all?
I don't believe so. This was, I think, a one-time issue with the lab. All labs have issues here and there, and this one's been very reliable for us, and so we don't have any other issues with it.
Thank you. So just the way the wording goes, did not analyze the VOCs within their hold time, leaving the results out of compliance. So the results, it was just the time issue, not the actual measurement that was out of compliance, I gather.
Correct, yes. All the numbers were fine and what we'd expect.
So you're not going to give a presentation, but now is the time for us to ask any questions that we have a burning desire to ask.
Yes, go ahead.
Do any of the commissioners or anybody online have a question about the Consumer Confidence Report? I know I have a few, so. Commissioner Bain.
Do I understand that this report, as we're seeing it, is kind of the template for the reports that you'll produced for 2024 and so on?
Yes, the one we actually attached to the agenda was the web version because it's easier to read, but we also have the print one, which is trifold and stuff. But so that one I didn't send with, but that one's on the website and so much easier for people to be able to peruse through than trying to do that one. But yes, that is pretty much our template we have every year.
Got it. Given that on the potential drinking water contaminants list, this is just an observation. I would suggest, if I'm accurate, that to the organic chemical contaminants list, you said are byproducts of industrial processes, petroleum production, gas stations, urban stormwater, et cetera. Pharmaceuticals are often highlighted as a source of chemical contaminants. And if you agree that technically that's correct, I would think that would be a valid one to add to that list. It's come into general public awareness that such pharmaceuticals can be a problem when they get into unintended places. And so that might be added to the list.
We could probably add it somewhere. Some of this language we have to do, or we put in there is EPA mandated, so the verbiage has to match the EPA language. So, but we could probably add another excerpt in there to say that, so people are aware of the pharmaceutical attribute as well.
Yeah, thank you. Should I just continue through my questions or?
No, I think Don has some after you. Did you have some questions?
I'll just short list and then we'll take turns here. Under the lead and copper rule revision, it says this initial inventory will be reported to state regulators in October 2024. And an interactive map will be made available to the public. Is that process on track? And so October, we should see that.
Yes, we currently have, we've been working with AmeriCorps interns, then they've been doing a lot of records review for us. And so we are still on track to, it may not be complete, but the state isn't expecting a complete. We probably have unknowns that we will still have to work through. But we're still on track to be able to submit an inventory to the state.
I see. Do I gather that all the news is good news to date? I mean,
Yeah, I believe we haven't found any lead, maybe galvanized.
Yeah, I don't believe we found any lead lines. We have, I believe, encountered a couple galvanized requiring replacement.
yeah, so I took away reading from that being very pleased. I mean, that's a good news story for the city and at the right time in October 2024, we maybe should make a big deal out of that.
Yeah. So we're actually on the docket for September to come back and talk where we're at and how we're going to be publishing that, because we're going, ADEQ they have a portal we are submitting the information to, and they're going to have the public facing inventories for all the cities in the state.
Great, given all the publicity around Flint, et cetera. People are always happy to have good news for a change. Going to another page, or the next page on PFAS. It says no PFAS were detected within the city sampled at all sources in 2013. Who do you have do this testing?
So in 2013?
Well, the way this is written, it implies that's the last time any testing was done.
So the UCMR 3 dealt with PFAS as well. So we sampled as a city in 2013.
I was wondering specifically what lab.
Oh, which lab? I don't remember exactly. I could look it up.
Okay, given all the, again, all the visibility of PFAS now.
Right. I do know it didn't look nearly as small as far as detection.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
It didn't look nearly as small as far as what it could detect.
The detection levels were much higher than they are now for the laboratory.
I see. So 2013 versus today.
Yes.
When would testing have to be redone for PFAS under the present guidelines?
We're currently in the middle of that, so it's between 2023 and 2025. It has to be completed.
Does that mean 2024?
We-
Between
we are on-
2023 and
We are on track to finish by the end of 2024. We have until the end of 2025.
Got it. Thank you. I did not
Yep,
know how
and
that
then
worked.
in that packet, there's the actual link to the EPA's website that you can do data mining that puts, our data is already on there, plus everything in the United States is, so you can look us up. And currently we have no detects for the city of Flagstaff.
Do you have plans to test PFAS of reclaimed water on the knowledge that some of that percolates to groundwater and you're not able to, regulations prevent sending to groundwater, water that will put you into non-compliance for use, either passive percolation or if we pursue active reinjection?
So funny enough, yes, because ADEQ is currently adopting new aquifer water quality standards because they are behind for the EPA. So they've decided to tack on PFAS sampling for baseline monitoring probably towards the end of this year. Since the drinking water MCLs have come out, that they decided that this would be a good thing to do while we were already doing the aquifer quality levels. So as a city, we're already looking into doing some of our own internal sampling before ADEQ mandates it.
Sounds good. Thank.
Related to PFAS, what is the detection limit that the lab that the city is currently using for PFAS?
Right now, it's varying per compound, so we don't have that numbers exactly. But I think that's on the data finder, and EPA should have the detection limit on that to be able to find that probably quicker than we can look it up.
I have heard a couple different ways that EPA has settled on a proposed or has recommended or has actually decided on a MCL for PFAS.
Mhm.
And it is very low. It's like somewhere in the,
4 PPT.
yeah, part per trillion. And assuming that the sampling limits that or the lab that you're using is getting non-detects, they're getting non-detects below that value, I would hope or assume.
I believe they are. I think I looked up one time just to make sure what we were seeing would match that, what they came out with MCLs. Yeah, data.
It does range by compound. There are 29 different compounds that they're looking at, and most are in the 3 to 5 parts per trillion.
Yeah, so that's kind of like in line with what the MCL is, whether it's actually been accepted or proposed. So at some point in time, there's going to have to be different methodology applied to be able to detect PFAS at lower levels, I can imagine. I did have one other question. It has to do with the regulated substances that you report out as part of this report. And I'm wondering, is this the same list that you've been using for a number of years now that's reported to actual individual residential water users, or is it an abbreviated list?
It is slightly abbreviated because it only shows detections. So we do test for more than is shown on the list. Right.
Yeah, I remember seeing a much more extensive list, and I couldn't remember if I got that in my mail or as part of my old job.
Yeah, so some former detections have dropped off the list. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Vane.
Okay, I'm almost finished. On the, next to the last page, on the regulated substances table, I probably missed it, but could you tell me under the amount detected, the actual units there? Is that, what are, it doesn't give the units. Say again?
It's in parentheses next to the substance.
Why, thank you. I was looking through the table, but that's great. Thank you, Don.
I missed that too.
Yeah,
First
okay.
read through.
What are the bracketed numbers then? The 800s and what does that indicate? Why are those bracketed?
So if you look on the top of the table, you'll see MCL, and then under that is the MRDL. So that's referring to either the MRDL or one column over the MRDLG.
Okay, so the table in some cases uses the MCL and others the MRDL. Okay.
Right, if there,
Okay,
so if there isn't an MCL, it would refer to the MRDL.
Good, I'm getting enlightened here. Thank you very much. And then finally on the final page, can you expand a little on the 5th unregulated contaminant monitoring rule? Is my understanding correct that you're expected to monitor some unregulated chemicals, and that's really just information for EPA?
Yes, it is. So that's the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. And so that's all PFAS, PFOA plus lithium. And that's what is informational for EPA, but then in the middle of it, they decided to move forward with setting limits for PFAS, PFOA. But I believe the EPA and ADQ are gonna be using these numbers for moving forward for when we do put the drinking water new standards into place, that they're gonna use that as baseline monitoring. That makes sense.
Okay, so do I understand then that some chemicals that were previously on the unregulated monitoring rule
They're already now.
are moving to the regulated?
Yes,
Are, out of curiosity, are any new ones moving into the unregulated monitoring rule area?
I don't believe they take, there's a process EPA goes through that takes in, I think, public comment and data and such to make the list. And then they go through, I think, a 2-year process to come up with the list for the next UCMR round. I don't know when the next one will come out, probably another good 4 years, 3-4 years, probably some that time period. So I have not heard of what could be on that list yet.
Thank you.
I have one question. I noticed the year sampled varies, and there's a couple of, like 5 or 6 exceptions where they haven't tested it for a number of years. So is that allowable with the EPA?
Yes,
And if you don't test for it, is that because of what? Why?
in some cases it's because we haven't tested, but more often it's probably because that detection was just from that year and we haven't had detects since then. But so for different compounds, we have different monitoring schedules. So for some, we'll only be required to test every 9 years at each point.
So it's not required every year.
Some are, some
Like uranium, you'd think I'd be interested in that one, but so it's just not specified to be tested every year, right?
most radiochemicals are on the 6-year schedule.
One additional question, I'm sorry. Basically, I think you just need to refresh my memory. Where are the samples actually collected? Is it at the outflow of the Lake Mary treatment plant or some other place?
So most of these samples are from each EPDS, entry point to the distribution system. We have 10, so Lake Mary is one of them, yes.
So it comes from surface water, the springs, and the well fields. Yeah.
Correct,
Okay.
all the sources.
Commissioner
Out of
Bain.
curiosity then, are the samples commingled? Or just testing methodology, do you commingle the water from those 10 sites? Or do you run 10 different tests for each of those inlet points?
Those are run separately and usually at separate times.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll ask a few then. So the 10 sites you mentioned, just so I get it clear in my mind and maybe the other commissioners. So we have water coming from Lake Mary wells and surface water. And when you test that, do you test those separately or after they're commingled?
Those two are considered the same, so those two are commingled and they become EPDS number 3. So those are, yes, those are tested together.
Because I know the surface water, we've had problems with high organic content at times. Do you ever test, do you ever monitor like midsummer and after when you get a lot of algae in the water? Do you ever do any total carbon testing on that water to see if we're headed towards a problem?
We do test total organic carbon every month from the raw water and then right after all the filters combine into the wet well.
Okay, okay. Okay, and so the other sites, we have the Woody Mountain well field. Is all that water combined before it enters the system?
Yes,
So that would be another point source,
yes.
okay? And then we have the interbasin water. That would be another point source. So you test that water after it comes out of the treatment process at the North Reservoir.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So how many we got now? Is that 3?
That might have been 4. The others
Right.
are all pretty much all individual local wells with the exception of Fox Glen, Sonawa, which are combined for an EPDS.
Okay. So do you monitor the wells with the same frequency as the other major sources?
For most things, yes. For things like UCMR5, there is they require more testing. So they require for surface water, sorry. So at the water plant for surface water, we have to test every quarter, 4 consecutive quarters for UCMR5, whereas well sources are only required to be tested twice, 6 months apart.
Okay. So have the local wells been tested for PFAS yet?
Most of them, we will have done all of them by the end of this year.
Okay. And okay, when you report the data from this and say the report we have here or your records, do you keep records or like a separate spreadsheet for each point source?
Yes,
Okay, so you're kind of monitoring all your data in one place for each point source then?
So all our data that we do goes to the state and goes into the CIDWIZ program, the Safe Drinking Water Information System that's online. So everything that we've done, with the exception of UCMR5, because that just goes to EPA, that all goes to that database for each well.
Yeah.
And it's
But
public
you're
record.
kind of keeping a running tally on it yourself and then you report it also to the state then, okay? The other question I had was with regard to, in here, you say you treat with chlorine dioxide if you see high organic levels. Can you explain to me what the process, what the why is of that? I'm just kind of curious.
not sure that I'm prepared to fully do that. I believe it has to do with oxidation.
Yeah,
And we do, because we use chlorine dioxide, that's why we do a daily chlorite and chlorine dioxide analysis.
okay. So you don't get formation of the, what is the ones here that you end up with? Haloacetic acids. And then the ones on this old report, I have the 22 report, I guess here. HAA6BR, HAAG. So those are the 3 kind of things you monitor on a regular basis, right? For halogenated organic compounds that result from words are coming in. treating it to remove any bugs and that can kill anything in the water. Yeah, breakdown. Those are the breakdown products from chlorination, disinfection. That's the word I was thinking. Sorry.
Right. So those are, I believe, collectively referred to as disinfection byproducts.
Yeah.
And we do testing in the distribution system for those at 8 locations every quarter.
Every quarter.
Yes.
Okay. And just going back to another question, you said you were going to be monitoring reclaimed water, some other reclaimed water for PFAS in the future. So when is that going to happen exactly?
Actually, I just got the kits last week. So we're hoping probably in the next month to do the effluent of both plants and then do 3 industries in town just to start having some baseline monitoring.
So I'd like to talk to you about that. Not related to commission business, but so. Okay, that would be even better. So. I'm curious, for the unregulated contaminant monitoring rules, there's several of them. So we've just talked about the 5th one. Is there anything going on with the other ones that preceded that one in terms of testing?
I don't know if I'm prepared either. I think some of those contaminants made it into having regulations with the EPA. I couldn't tell you which ones they are off the top of my head. I don't know. You know of any? Yeah, from like 4 or 3.
Some of them have more like 20 to 50 compounds in the
Yeah.
list. So the longer list for a couple of them, so.
I do believe they have moved quite a few from like the unregulated to regulated
Oh, they
over
have?
the years.
Okay,
I believe so.
all right. And we haven't got any hits on any of those that exceeded any limits then?
From previous UCMR?
Yeah,
I don't believe so.
okay, all right. I think for this topic, that's all I've got. Any other questions? Rob, did you have another question? Jody, do you have any questions about this topic?
None additional. You guys covered them well.
Miranda, any questions?
None right now. Thank you.
Okay,
Good discussion, for sure.
okay. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you guys coming and presenting your stuff.
Thank you for all the great questions.
Okay, I guess we will move on to old business item number 6. And we will get an update on water, wastewater, reclaimed water rate study from Aaron Young.
Good evening or afternoon. Erin Young, Water Resources Manager. And if you've been following City Council, we presented to them on Tuesday the first read of an ordinance and a resolution to adopt updated reclaimed water, wastewater rates. They approved unanimously. Councilmember Sweet read the resolution and made the motion for both. Thank you, Councilmember Sweet. We
Was
are
my pleasure.
council, they're rate experts by now. They could go to work for Stantec, I think. What I'm here to provide is the answer, hopefully an answer to one question that we didn't follow up on, and I believe it was you, Mr. Nauman, a question on the cost to develop a parcel today and with the new rates. So I can pull that up and we can review that. And I'm also prepared with a whole bunch of slides, the red line of the city code. If you have any questions about updated rates, I should, hopefully can answer your questions. So we asked Jackson Salazar to pull the current fees that a household would expect if developing their property. So a $340 meter fee. The capacity fee currently for 3/4 inch meter is $57.28. The sewer capacity fee, $37.23. A service fee of $24. and then taxes for a total of just under 10,000. And with the council adopted rates, the meter fee goes up to $806. That's the cost for the meter and associated items that accompany the meter. And then the capacity fee goes up to 81.46. Sewer capacity fee creeps up to 40.86. The service fee about doubles almost, for a total of just over $13,000.
So I'm trying to go back in time to that question I
Yes.
asked. So my question was the difference between a private entity building a house and hooking up versus somebody who buys a house in a subdivision, and how much that would cost either the builder who includes that in the price of the home, and how does that work? Is that broken, see what I'm saying?
I mean, the builder just, sells the home with these costs incorporated, so I feel they can mark these up or pass through the cost however they see fit.
But is there a difference in charge to a builder versus a private
We do
entity?
we do have a tap fee, which is not in this calculation. That would occur whether you're a resident ordering the meter install. And then we would come and tap the main line once the contractor excavates to it. We come in, but um, is there a difference in what a developer would pay versus just a 3/4 inch residential hookup?
Mr. Chair, I think we would say that the costs are the same. It's just the level of service that's provided. And so again, if the developer is installing the infrastructure and provides the service tap to the meter, we obviously would not charge them a tapping fee, but when they connect to the main system, which does require a tap to go in, then we would charge them for that size of tap. So it depends on the level of service, but we do not distinguish between a developer being our customer or individual building a home being a customer. It's just driven by the size, right? The size of the service being provided.
So say for a development of 50 homes, they would tap into the water system and that would be the charge to the developer.
I think we're talking about the tapping fee that would be,
Yeah.
but your capacity fee is still driven on the number, the size of the meter. So that individual would pay, if they paid the capacity fees, would be 50 times the number of, and how they.
The cost for.
And how they
that.
recoup that, again, we can assume that they do pass that on. I don't think they're maybe taking it from their profit margin. But I'm sure there's multiple factors they look at.
Okay. But it works out, it's basically the same
It's the
cost.
same.
Okay.
With that question addressed, any questions on where council landed on a rate reduction, an overall rate reduction? Well, from what was proposed, we were at the 15% for water, came down to 10%. And how, if you have questions on how that was achieved, and then on wastewater, it was like 25, 25, 15, 10, 5, and now we're 20, 20, 10, 5, 5. Yeah, still fresh.
Yeah, I thought it worked out for the best in a lot of respects, so. Any other comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Bain.
Maybe for Councilmember Sweet and others, I know I've told friends, I think things came out quite nicely. There was a lot of deliberation and the trade-offs that were done. I think things ended up in a good place. Personally, I'm still eager. I'm bringing this partly because Councilmember Sweet is on the line, that we do eventually revisit the reclaimed water discussion. And my understanding is an intention that this group will be involved with staff in bringing that back to council within 6 months. Is that still the intent, which from the time that was stated, I think that makes it October?
Commissioner Vane, I think you bring up a good point. I don't think we thought that far ahead. It is definitely our intent and we were aware of the 6 month, whether that was from the directive or at the completion of the rate study. Obviously I would lean towards the rather to, but definitely amenable to begin to facilitate the conversation. I think very similar to the rate discussion. This is not something that wants to be rushed through. Like we want to make sure we have a lot enough time, and I think council would be sensitive to that as long as we're providing those updates on how that's progressing, which I'm sure they would also be involved in. And so we're working to kind of outline what those steps look like. We're gathering some data information now, and so we're excited to kind of engage in that as we kind of end one chapter of the rate study and begin to do some of the follow up that directed came through.
Thank you.
And-
Councilmember Sweet, maybe you have
Yeah.
a view of the sense of the council on your expectations on that.
Yeah, thank you. So I agree with Shannon that, we did give direction and I trust our staff. They are going to be working on it and it will not be to the wayside, I promise. This was a very intense uh project that we just accomplished. And I do feel that we made a good headway with it. Council came to a good decision. I think it is for the best. And now that this chapter hopefully will have the final vote, we can move forward with the reclaimed water discussion. It is something that I think all of us on council have expressed that we would like to see happen. And I understand timelines are important, but I would hate to say, 6 months to the minute. I trust that staff will be working on it, and that was the direction of council. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other comments on the rate study? Okay, just so I'm sure I understand, there is going to be increases in the cost of reclaimed water based upon the increase of fresh water, potable water. One of the things I would like to see looked at in the future, currently the cost of reclaim compared to freshwater is 35%, correct?
There are varying percentages, and I was going to bring that up if I think I
Sure,
have
you
it in
wanna,
the
you
slide.
wanna just run over what you have for reclaimed water a little bit?
I don't have that in here. It is crazy. We, yeah, I can pull that up.
Yeah,
if
I
you-
know it
if you'd
depends
like,
upon
but-
user and how much, there's various historical rates that are kind of cooked into the reclaimed water cost. But what I'd like to see personally, from my viewpoint as a commissioner, as the cost of reclaimed water should edge up a little bit. So that should be part of the discussion in the future. I'm not sure if we can actually get the calculation about making the comparison of what the cost is of reclaim compared to potable. That might be a number that would be useful, kind of a fusion of all those rates and where it comes out. See what I'm saying? So we have an idea of how we compare the cost of reclaim to potable water. So that would be kind of food for thought for when the discussions start about reclaimed.
Yeah, those sorts of, data comparisons and such, we can absolutely pull those together and we can look at it all different ways, just like we did with rates in general. But I feel like what's coming forward first are what do we want to accomplish with the discussion? What are the goals? So that we don't go too far outside of the end zone, I guess, of having a conclusion Um, if we're only talking the rates themselves, um, and not other policy, that'll be important to define. As you know, the discussion can go outside the end zones pretty quickly. So, and I was just.
Now, my question is directed at specifically the costs of reclaimed versus potable water.
Yeah,
I guess the other factor to consider is if with direct potable reuse possibly on the horizon, is how do we improve conservation of reclaimed water, especially in the summertime, to accommodate that particular use in the future. So that's one that should be on there too in terms of consideration.
looks like Director Jones noted that.
I did, and I do have those percentages, if
Oh,
the
great.
commission is still
Yes.
interested in those. So reclaim is currently set at the water rate, including the energy cost at 35% for customers that do not require a main extension after 2020. So that's one group. Reclaim rates are set at 75% of potable water rates for all classifications of customers that require a main line extension after 2020. Pipe stem hydrant meter rates are set at 50% of the equivalent potable water rate. Off-peak tier one customer rates are currently set at 87% of the commercial reclaimed water rates. And energy cost adjustments, the city reserves the right to automatically pass those in the future for reclaim rates on for cost adjustments equivalent to the potable water rates. So again, nothing's ever that black and white, but it is currently set on percentages, but a few determining factors. So it could be 35%, 50%, up to 87%. Based on the customer class.
Would it be possible to include a summary of that in the minutes to this meeting? And also include the volumes for each category you just mentioned of water annual volumes that are used?
Okay, we can definitely work on that, providing the language that's in the code. That's fairly easy. To pull through the data, I can get with Aaron to see what it would take to look at the amount of water per customer class, maybe even with Jolene. So
I'm just trying to
we'll get
think of
that.
factors that would be useful and starting off the discussion on this. So,
Noted. Thank you.
okay, is any other questions for Aaron, or Aaron, do you have anything else you would like to mention?
I would like to thank the commission for how involved you were and for the special meetings. I know it takes away from work time. So Joe, recognizing I think you had some conflicts, but you still made it to the special meetings we had. I heard several times city council voice their appreciation for your input. I just feel this was a successful project because we ended on our scheduled time. We don't have a time extension on with Stantec. We do have a dollar extension. It did cost additional dollars for the meetings that we needed. But I feel very proud of getting through this, and then we can work on the reclaim discussion. We can work on the affordability discussion that council asked of us. So thank you.
Well, on the behalf of the commission, and I'm sure Kurt would say this too, you guys did amazing work, Aaron. You were put up with all our crazy and dumb questions, and the folks from Stantec were really patient with good questions and some not, more ignorant based, because probably a lot of mine. So we really appreciate all your work on this and the whole water department, because I know it was unbelievably complicated, all the factors bringing it together. So it was tough and got it done. So. Ooh.
No dumb questions. And if you felt you had a dumb question, somebody else wanted, had the same question, or we benefit through just from talking through a lot of different things. So the dialogue really helped, I think, the community come together at the end. And also to our staff, Jolene was really involved with a lot of meetings. And so, yeah, very proud. Thank you.
Can I chime in real quick?
Sure. Miranda?
From space. I just wanted to thank the Water Commission and staff. Coming from a council perspective and someone who's in the community, and I will be impacted by, the fees myself from my business and my residents. I just want to thank you all for your time, diligence, and communication. I feel like this was a huge success, and it really shows that we can do things the right way. We listened to the community. We asked the questions. No questions were dumb. They all were very important. And I feel like staff did a great job of answering, taking the time, and I just really appreciate everyone's hard work on this. I count this as a huge success. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sweet.
Okay, I think we are now done with old business, item number 6. So we will move on to item number 7, informational items to and from the chair, Water Commission members or staff. Shannon, do you have anything for us?
Mr. Chair, there's no comments from staff today, but yeah, definitely willing to hear from the commission. Thank you.
Anybody online have a comment? Going once, going twice. Commissioners? Unfortunately, I do have one my usual thing. I took my mountain bike for a spin up on a Sunday through the construction project on 180. And it seems like the preformed box culverts, there were still, maybe it's improved over a couple of weeks, but it doesn't seem like that project will be done. Definitely not by the 1st of July, probably not by the end of July. Can we get an approximate date when that facility will, I know there's some landscaping and stuff that needs to be done after the project is done, but when will the operational part of that culvert be done?
Mr. Chair, no, I think that's a great question. I think definitely staff is sensitive that the project is a little bit behind schedule. And you're right, will not be completed by July 1st. So we're working through with the contractor on what the deliverable is and making sure that they also have contingency plans in place in the event that that there's changes in the environment and how they're prepared to do that. Again, while it is a pretty dynamic construction progress, I think we are still looking to see if we can get that completed in the month of July. But we do acknowledge that July 1st is no longer a reasonable target. So they are working as the contractors putting together those plans and getting up to date. I'll make sure that I'm able to share that with the commission because it is happening rather quickly. And so I'll probably do that outside of the commission. I'll make sure you get the email correspondence so you don't have to wait till the next meeting to hear what happened.
Follow up to that, what advice would you have for the residents of Coconino Estates and the general area impacted by the water coming down Schultz Creek in case there was a large thunderstorm up in the Burns Car?
Mr. Chair, so currently we would stick to the existing protocol, has been communicated to the community, recommended that all armoring that remains in place. We do know that there are some citizens that have elected to remove that. I think that is against the recommendation of the city. We're working to kind of get that resolved, but we also know that that's again, we see that that's something that will be an end result, but moving that too soon, I don't know. Again, we're hoping for the best. Our recommendation is that those armorings stay in place. There is still the existing conveyance system. As
I
it
know the
currently
system
is.
has been improved. You fixed the collapsed culvert.
Yeah, there have
along
been some
180, so.
improvements. But yeah, we're recommending that those stay in place. And definitely working with the contractor to make sure that they have contingency plans on, that we know what our options are in the event that the project is not completely functional by the time we were to see any type of significant rain event.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other matters we need to bring up? Okay, I think it's time to adjourn this meeting at 4:57. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.